Parts of the brain that are fragile, and there are different parts of the brain that can be damaged easily. There are different parts of the brains that are important, but there are 4 parts of the brain that are the most important. The frontal lobe. It involves in planning, organizing, problem-solving, selective attention, personality, and a variety of higher cognitive functions, including behavior and emotions. Temporal lobe. It's a region of the cerebral cortex that is located beneath the sylvian fissure on both cerebral hemispheres.
The parietal lobe can pick up sensory.
Different parts of the brain that are fragile, and there are different parts of the brain that can be damaged easily. Anything can hurt the brain, even things you don't expect. TBI is a major cause of death and disability worldwide, especially in children and young adults. Causes include falls, vehicle accidents, and violence.
A lot of people in the USA have to suffer through traumatic brain injury. While traumatic brain injury can have more problems that affect every category of life, everyone needs to be aware of their surroundings. A severe brain injury occurs when the loss of consciousness occurs for longer than a half hour. Brain damage is one of the most destructive injuries a person can experience. People that survive traumatic brain injury will face a long-term lifetime. Traumatic brain injury is not something you can ignore or run away from. Symptoms of traumatic brain injury can have different symptoms. Each part of the brain can be damaged easily. TBI is an understood injury. TBI can range from mild to severe. TBI will change your life. The effects of traumatic brain injury can go from person to person. Even though people are affected with traumatic brain injury, there is still a cure for it. Even if there is or is not a cure for traumatic brain injury, there is still a treatment that can help minimize long-term effects.
The changes that we see when the temporal lobe is injured is that people have problem understanding the spoken word. There are problems with selective attention. Sexuality changes. A person with a temporal lobe injury may be found to persistently talk. And often with a temporal lobe injury, we see an increase in aggressive behavior. There are problems identifying objects and categorizing them. And there are problems recognizing faces and finding objects. So now let's talk a little bit about the parietal lobe. The parietal lobe is an area of the brain that takes us into sort of a higher level of functioning. And as we look at the parietal lobe and those changes, we see in patients with traumatic brain injury difficulty naming objects, problems processing their tactile sensations, so problems processing and understanding what their fingers are telling them they're touching. You see people's academic skill sets fall, and things that they were easily able to do in the workplace or in the academic setting from a cognitive standpoint are now diminished or gone. There's confusion between the left and the right. You have a loss of hand-eye coordination and a decreased orientation of where our bodies are in space. We look at the cerebellum, and that's the area here really at the back and the base of the brain and at the top of the spinal column. As we look at the cerebellum and we look at the types of things that our cerebellum does for us each and every day, we see things like the following. We see the control of gross and fine motor coordination. We see all of our voluntary motor coordination. So when we decide we want to reach out and grab a jar off the shelf, we put our arm out and we do that, and that's our cerebellum in action. We have our balance and our equilibrium, the ability to stand up and not fall over, the ability to be able to ride a skateboard, to be able to ride a bicycle, to go for a jog down the block. Our postural control and our eye movements, moving our eyes back and forth, up and down, and utilizing our eyes to obtain visual information so that it can be processed by our brain.